what or who is your God based on the definition of what I give most of my time to? What am I involuntarily even doing? That is what you worship. That is what you acquiesce to all the time. So how could we even call ourselves believers, whether you're religious or spiritual? I welcome all people on this channel. How can you call yourself a believer if what you believe in, mind, body, and spirit, is escaping? Escapism is your God. How many times just this year, or better yet, how many times in the past 3 months have you told yourself, today is the day, I'm going to start exercising more, I'm not going to spend as much time mindlessly scrolling on social media, TikTok, Instagram, I'm going to focus on my side hustle, I'm going to make sure that I get better at whatever it is that you've been focused on for so long, but it just does not happen. Rest assured that you are not the only one. Millions of us are affected by this very thing, but I want to let you know that it is a very dangerous cycle if we don't learn how to hack that cycle that we are really caught up in. And there's actually a name for what you're going through. This thing is called escapism. Escapism has a very dangerous air to it. Because if we don't learn how to get out of that loop, like you're trying many times, right? You keep trying, but it's not working. And it's not working because you're this terrible person, or it's not working because you just can't learn how to do these things. It's not working because there's just certain things that you're not applying to get out of this cycle. So this is actually what's taking place when you are getting really frustrated with yourself and wondering, like, why can't I stop doing these things that I so badly want to stop doing? Now, the whole art of escapism, or the whole issue with escapism, is that what you're literally doing is this. Now, just a side note, I do not want you guys watching these videos, like I always say, and not taking the actual steps to integrate it into your life. So please pause and write down the definition. Please pause and take some notes, some really important takeaways, because this is what's really going to help bring you to that next level. Now, what I just wrote is escapism, leaving reality by indulging in excessive stimulation. That is key, the excessive stimulation. When we have pains or we have emotions that we're trying to avoid, we want to get out of it by just saying, you know what, let me keep scrolling. Let me keep doing this. Let me stay on the phone even though I feel this cloud over my head because I'm really trying to focus and I'm really trying to bring something into manifest. But I can't because I'm so fixated on escaping these feelings. And I want to show you exactly what's happening when you're doing that. Okay, there's actually a feedback loop that's happening. All right, so you have a problem, right? We all have problems, all right? And then we have escape, right? We start to escape here. But the thing about escaping there is that the problem gets worse. And then we are back at the problem. So we start with the problem, we try to escape it, then the problem gets worse, and then we're back at the problem. This is a really nasty feedback cycle. Now, the next thing is, how can we make sure that we are hijacking this process? How can we make sure that we're getting in this, getting very deeply into this, to where we won't have to worry so much about not reaching our goals, about not doing the things we said we would do. We're continually mindlessly scrolling. Because one of the negative things about that, or the biggest negative thing about that, is you're constantly teaching yourself that whatever I say that I'm going to do, I don't do it, and I'm okay with it. That's what we continue to put into our mind. We actually create neural pathways in the mind that tell ourselves, anytime we feel a problem, we escape. Anytime we feel any little pang of hurt or issues that we're going through in our life, escape, right? So I want you to write down this feedback loop, and I also want you to write down in what ways do you leave reality and stimulate, whether that's through alcoholism, drug addiction, right? There's porn, there's all kinds of things that people use to escape. It could even be something as simple as spending hours of time on Instagram or TikTok. So I want you to write the things that you do to escape. And the solution to this whole thing, or how to make it a little bit better, is we're going to focus right here. All right, now this is the key to getting this cycle taken care of. Right, we're going to put our attention right here. Now I want you to write that down. And I need a little bit more room here, so I'm going to erase this. Now this part is going to be a very key takeaway, because this is a thing that could give you a fighting chance at making sure you get into the cycle and really figure out, like, wait, what's going on and how could I possibly help myself? I can only imagine. Well, let's not even flex. I don't have to imagine. I've been through these things, right? How difficult it is to set out a goal, to set your sights on a goal and not be able to hit it. That is so damaging. And I don't think we talk about that enough. How much that hurts our soul, how much it breaks our spirit. To tell ourselves, like, oh, today is the day. Or you know what, next week I'm going to get on that diet. Tomorrow on the 5th or the 17th, I'm going to get started, and it just doesn't happen. And before you know, you look back and there's years of time that have gone and you just didn't get to the goal, right? And it's not just you, it's actually something that's going on deeper than what you realize. And it's really a mental thing. You've literally created pathways in your mind that tell you when you feel a problem, escape. When you feel a problem, escape. And we are creatures of habit. So we have to understand and give grace to ourselves, right? Give ourselves ton of grace. You've been practicing this way all your life, for all your adult life. Most of us have. So we have to give ourselves grace. We have to give ourselves compassion and understanding while we're trying to change. We are literally attempting to do the very thing that will bring us into alignment or help us become our higher version, our self-actualized self. That's some serious work. So do be graceful during this time, because it will get difficult. Now back to what I was saying in terms of the biggest key takeaway of how we can really get into the cycle in a different way, in a way that we have not yet tried. This is key. Pay attention each time you get the desire to stimulate. Pay attention each time you get the desire to stimulate. So we talked about the problem comes first, and then we attempt to escape. And then the problem gets worse. This is where our homework is, right here. Right here. When do we start to feel that desire? Now, if you, for example, if you're on a diet and everything's going well, it's day 2 and you haven't eaten any carbs, then many times, which we may not realize if we're not super tapped into our behaviors, you just saw a commercial or you just rode by the Golden Arches. A friend just mentioned pizza and now you're salivating. Even the thought of pizza kind of got me hungry, right? So don't ever minimize the effect that simply seeing something or hearing something or smelling something. Don't minimize the effect that that can have on your want to take action. Or what's actually happening is your need for this desire. So when things like that happen, we have to realize, okay, instead of escaping, instead of eating that burger, instead of eating that thing or continually mindlessly scrolling, you literally have this big elephant in the room. So you're not just mindlessly scrolling in terms of, oh, this is great. Oh, ha, ha, ha. That's so funny. You feel some real pressure, some real anxiety, some real stress, but you're constantly pushing it down. And that's why the problem gets worse. And that's why it doesn't even feel good when you're eating that pizza. It doesn't even feel good when you're after a certain high or you're after a certain drink or you're after a certain thing that you know you are using to escape. because it's no longer that rewarding to you, because there's a part of you that naturally knows that I should not even be doing this. And that is where our attention needs to go. So when we're here, this is what I want you guys to focus on. When we're here, when we're in the place where we realize we're paying attention, we feel the desire, and before we do the thing that we would usually do to escape, this is what I want to come up in your mind, but it's also going to be in your notes because you are an active watcher like everybody else on this channel. This is key. We need to look at our historical data. When we are feeling like we want to do something and we're in that part of the cycle where it's right before we take action to stimulate and right before the problem really gets worse, I want you to look back at what you usually do. What are you about to do when you feel that? Are you about to go ahead and indulge in that pizza? Indulge in mindlessly scrolling? So that way, what this does is help you identify what things that you regularly use on a day-to-day basis to escape. Right now, we're just collecting data. This is not something that we're going to get sad about. We're not going to kick ourselves because of this. We're not going to be super stressed and be like, man, I should have done this. No, it's okay. You're exactly where you are for a reason. And we're going to help get past that point. But you do need to look, because this is an extremely important part of making this whole thing work and being successful, of getting and breaking the feedback loop, the negative feedback loop. So your job is to use the data that you're collecting now, because we're going to use a week span. When this video comes off, that's when it starts. I'm not telling you to make any changes this week. That's not what it's about. This is data collection week, right? We're going to get a good weekend. And some of you guys who are super ambitious, maybe you only need a couple days to realize what actually triggers me. What triggers that desire? What exactly do I do? What do I focus on when I'm trying to purposely avoid things? That's what we're going to focus on. Because what you're realizing, or what you will realize, is that what you literally are doing is this is what you've done. You took your power back by simply observing. And that is something that needs to be celebrated. Don't go and escape and do what you would usually do to celebrate, but celebrate it in terms of, wow, now I realize what's really going on and I have the ability to change it. Because to be aware of it is a really good thing, and that's most of the work. But changing it is the thing that's going to sustain us and make sure that we hit that new reality that we need. Now that we realize what the feedback loop is, now that we realize what our desires are, what's triggering our need to want to escape, and we're looking at our historical data, how we've acted in the past, now we're ready for that next step. And that next step is going to be very crucial in how we are able to make sure that this plan becomes something permanent in our lives. This is it. We have to choose to do a new thing. And I know that sounds like a no-brainer. It sounds extremely easy or very simple, but that is the thing that we are up against right now, choosing to do something new. Now, I would say use your other healthy coping mechanisms to choose to do a new thing, because some of us may journal, meditate, go for nature walks. But I would argue that if those things were working, we probably wouldn't be here. So my suggestion is I would like for you, or I would like for this new thing to just simply sit with your feelings. Sit with the feeling of inadequacy. Sit with the feeling of fear, of feeling like it's too late. And ideally, I would like for you to talk out loud to yourself audibly, just like I am right now, and talk through those things. Feel your fears. Because many times we don't realize the lack of power that we feel around our fears is because we're silencing them. Let's speak to them. Let's open up, right? We talk so much about becoming our high vibrational self and being our God-like self and becoming this amazing person, and we don't dive deep enough into the roots that go to hell and the branches that reach to heaven, there's a duality in us. So let's not fear the thing that's less popular, because that thing that we're avoiding is the key to setting ourselves free. So I want you to sit with your fears. Let them run rampant for a minute. Because what you're really going to do is teach yourself that it is okay to have fears. You're going to learn this. You're going to learn that you are a normal person. Oh my God, yes. You don't have anything super wrong with you than the next person. You are simply just a human trying to live your best life. You don't ever wake up saying, you know what? I want to have a terrible day, and better yet, I want to make myself feel like crap all day. I bet nobody wakes up and says that. The day just kind of happens, and we learned a little bit why, because we're getting into our mindset or how our mind is designed. But you're normal. It's normal to feel inadequate. It's normal to feel these things, but we don't have to live there. We don't have to stay there. That does not have to become us or part of our personality. You have no obligation to who you once were. Even if it was yesterday, or even if it was a year ago, 2 years ago, you have no obligation to that person. Because although that person got you to where you are, which you need to respect, but that person also may no longer serve you, or some of those attributes that you have no longer serve you. So we could leave them to the wayside. And some of those attributes are going to be that I run away from fear. I don't have to. I can face it head on. Because what you're going to realize is that when you're doing that, when you have the courage to just simply face your fear. I'm not telling you go take a walk when you need to escape, or go journal, go pray, go talk to the ancestors, go talk to the Most High. That is not what I'm telling you to do. I want you to sit and face your fears head on, because you're going to notice this phenomenon occur. You started off with your fears this big. At the end of you sitting with your fears and talking through verbally with yourself, your fears will become this big. Now you ask, what's the difference between this and this? And it's obvious. These fears were larger and these fears are smaller. But let's think about what it even means to be smaller. When something is smaller, it's more manageable. You have a different view of it, a more holistic view. It's something you can actually fathom. So when you get to this point, you're going to see, like, wait, this is where you can start to organize. This is where you can start to plan. Like, wait a minute, I don't have to be that scared, because actually this big thing, this big monster that I created, most of it was in my mind. What you're really dealing with is something like this. And as you continue to allow yourself to go through this process, guess what happens next? And notice how there's still fear. Let's not expect fear to be eradicated. Let's not expect fear to just go away. Because at some point we have to act in spite of fear, right? When we want to stimulate, when we want to escape, we're still going to have that desire to eat that pizza, or that desire to escape in a really negative or harmful way. But that desire becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. But I think that it would be very adult of us to not expect it to just go away. Some things, they don't really go away until years and years later. That's why you find people who have stopped eating meat. You'll find that they still do have meat cravings years down the line. What's that about? It takes a while for change. So please be graceful with yourself. And just because somebody who has chosen not to eat meat does not eat meat doesn't mean that they don't go through the want or the desire to eat those foods that their mom used to make, or to have those wonderful things. It's still there. But because it's manageable, because it's small, because it's something that they can grasp and wrap their mind around, it becomes something that they can triumph over. This is no longer something that is debilitating. It is no longer something that they can't ever be able to get over or get through just because you made it small. This is your work. Now, I hope you guys are writing these things down, because it is extremely valuable. Now, just for a quick recap, we talked about what distractions are and why they happen. I also want to mention this, and I'm going to leave it on this note because this is so important. Those of us who are believers, whether you believe in God, Allah, the Most High, your ancestors, whatever it is that you believe, if you worship something and give it your attention, give it your mind, your body, and your soul, that has become your God. That has become your higher power. And when we bring it to a spiritual level, that's when you truly understand the danger of escaping. Because what you're really doing is bowing down to a habit, a belief, a way of being that does not serve you. It hurts you. And if we bow down to anything, a way of being, a way of believing, we want it to be something that helps to empower us, something that enriches our life, instead of the opposite. So when you talk about escapism, let's not talk about it lightly, and we can't take it lightly. Although we're going to be compassionate, like I said, we're going to be graceful, but I want you to ask yourself, what or who is your God, based on the definition of what I give most of my time to? What am I involuntarily even doing? That is what you worship. That is what you acquiesce to all the time. So how could we even call ourselves believers, whether you're religious or spiritual? I welcome all people on this channel. How can you call yourself a believer if what you believe in, mind, body, and spirit, is escaping? Escapism is your God. And that's something that we really have to be careful about. So I do want to leave you with that. And also, let's not forget everything that we learned today. We learned that the feedback loop is very dangerous. If we continue on our problems, if we continue to escape from them, if we continue to just ignore it, it's only going to get worse, and it will have a snowball effect. So instead of descending, we're going to ascend, right? Instead of our problems getting smaller, more sizable, more easily dealt with, they're going to become bigger, more difficult to deal with. And we're realizing through this video that we don't have to go through that. That is voluntary at some point, because we talked about sitting with our fears, speaking to our fears, understanding them more. When's the last time you flushed it all out and said, and just talked out loud to yourself and said, I'm really scared of this because I might not be worthy enough. I might have wasted my time. And then you'll have another side of you that says, but what about all the things you've learned in the meantime? Can that help? Can that add to it? So I want you to have that dialogue. I want you to have that lower self and higher self really dance with each other during this exercise, because that's what's really going to allow you to be free and get the power back so that you can use it for good, right? So now the thing that you worship, or now the part of you that you are just fully immersed in, mind, body, and spirit, is something that brings life to you. It's something that frees you. It's something that helps you really get into your higher purpose. That is the key to this whole thing. Please take notes and subscribe, comment, and share if this has been any help to you. And I will see you guys on the next video.